from all, to all, with all, for all, through all. We thank the gods of creation. We thank the ancestors. We thank the forces of nature. And we thank the earth. We thank them for their direction, their protection, their guidance, for keeping us, showing us, allowing us to know and enjoy life to its fullest, now and later.
Black people who once loved with the slow march of time. Time was ours to hold in the soft, love-warm chambers of our hearts. And once we, the Afro mommies and daddies of a sun world, would turn our strands of hair into antennas to tune in the juju madness and syncopated love rhythms of Africa. And we love with time, and we took the time to love, and with the right time we love, and we love time after time. Will we ever love again? Will we ever love again? Will we really ever love again? Or will we just sit and rot away with the brighter tomorrows in the skag field, rat-cluttered halls of our minds? Black people, what y'all gonna do? Black people, what y'all gonna do? Will the real black people please stand up?
Let our rejoicing rise high as listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us facing.
Jumbo Habari, and welcome once again to our story, the program that makes being black positive, relevant, desirable, and true to a lost nation in America. A program that speaks to the historic significance of the original people of the earth. Our Story Network takes pride in setting itself away from other programs that centers on entertainment or rhetorical mumbo-jumbo that misdirects your attention onto other things, that causes you to exhaust your resources and renders you brain dead. It is Our Story who talks about commitment to you and your people. It is Our Story that champions the reestablishment of the black genius that once ruled the world. It is Our Story that focuses you in on the rewards of black advocacy, black activism, black involvement, and black power. It is Our Story that encourages survival of the black race and solicits your involvement to that end. Black folks must remember, race first is the call of the day, and we as a people must take the pledge if we, the people of the original race, expect to survive. As I take the many lessons I have received over the years and reflect upon them by sharing these lessons with my brothers and sisters, I realize the power that we as a people possess for the most part has gone unnoticed. The masses of black folks who have been rendered lost and disenfranchised from the meaning and mission our creators intended for us to embrace is all but depleted. It is because of the mission and meaning of the life of our ancestors that I realize how blessed as black people we really are. What fascinates me are the many gifts I have been granted, which allows me to distribute the information onward to you. As always, that message begins and ends with the importance of blackness. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Greetings, friends, comrades, family, the inquisitive onlookers, and our beloved viewers. Welcome, welcome, and welcome to Our Story Network. We thank you for being with us this evening, and we trust you will take something of value away with you this evening. That is the aim and goals of Our Story Network, the network that leads the pack in modern day communications. Now, since I have gotten the plug in for Our Story Network, I want to plug my book. As the old saying goes, a plug is just a plug, by any other name is still a plug. Therefore, I want to use the recent release of Mayor Mitch Landrieu's book entitled In the Shadows of Statues, a white Southerner confronts history. Some reviews call Landrieu's book, and I quote, a powerful, welcome manifesto in cause of a new and better South, and says Landrieu unhesitatingly declares that the process of removing Confederate monuments represents institutional racism. What black critics I'm hearing from calls Landrieu's book a total hijack of the much dedicated work many blacks in New Orleans worked years to achieve. The book seems to give Mitch Landrieu all of the credit for having the statues removed and tucked away out of sight. The truth of all of this is many black activists and advocates were responsible for the statues being taken down, finally. Years of blood, sweat, and tears were invested to have the statues to finally come down. And to the illegitimate credit of having the statues removed, Mitch Landrieu once again sits in the shadows of hard work only to rise when the smoke has cleared to decry his victory over the objections of all of those who have put in the virtuous labor that brought about the climax to a job. Wow. No, Mitch Landrieu did not save the day while riding on the white horse. But what does this have to do with my promoting my own book? Finally, no, you thought I had forgotten about my promotion, but what Mitch Landrieu's book reminds me of was the lesson I learned many months ago. That lesson was, if you want the truth told, you cannot rely on anyone else to tell the truth for you. One must tell the truth for him or herself. That is if you want the truth to be told. Thank you, Mitch. I can take it from here. It took me over 400 pages to address the truth about black people and white people. I talked about the past, the present, and the future for this earth if we continue to allow the current leadership to continue to lay the groundwork for redemption. Not to sound like a preacher pimp, the redemption I speak of is the return to sanity, the state of mind that allows for the creation granted life at the point in time of creation to once again flourish. I guess a better way of putting it is the balancing of the scales of justice, a concept that was hijacked from the black race after millions of years of black people sitting in judgment of the laws of creation. Black people lost that position by taking their eye off of the grandeur of living the life we were granted. Our story, the original Holocaust, will answer many questions you have had over the years. Our story, the original Holocaust, will answer why the white race hates the black race so much that the white race is literally killing the planet Earth. Why the white race has kept the black race from true knowledge and education. Why whites must experiment while all of the answers to the question whites have has already been answered thousands of years ago by the black race. And why whites are afraid to allow blacks to regain their rightful position as stewards of the earth. All this and more is waiting for you in our story, The Original Holocaust, a book I have been working on for the greatest part of my life. Our story, The Original Holocaust, is now available at Community Book Center, 2523 Bayou Road, or Wayne's World and Son, 2255 St. Claude Street, and on the West Bank at Educators Delight, 3501 Holiday Drive, Suite 405. You can also order the book online by sending an email to wcjohnson76@yahoo.com and state you are interested in the book. You will receive an email invoice from PayPal. Make your payment and the book will be sent to you pronto. Thank you for the continued support and let me know what you think about the book. All comments are welcome. Now, turning to tonight's program, I want to preface our program with this. This is a reunion of sorts. Brother Robert Goodman was a guest on this show many years ago and has been on the program for many segments. Brother Robert is an activist and advocate for the black community in pointing out police brutality. Brother Robert and his mother, peace and blessings be with her, were frequent guests, and their presence convinced many abused victims and their loved ones to come forward and join the fight for justice. This past Thursday, Brother Robert and his organization held a vigil for victims and their families of police brutality. For those of you who have not experienced police brutality, and it is hard to imagine any blacks not being the recipient of police brutality until it makes one paranoid as to how and why the blue ghost has physically harmed, has not paid a visit to your door. But then and again, there are a few who have not witnessed the struggles of a forgotten people. Well, tonight we are going to discuss the ways of coping with the threats of police brutality and the execution you can take to protect your families from police brutality. As the provisions for police misconduct finds their way into actual policies and procedures, people need to be involved to ensure their concerns are addressed. Tonight, we will discuss the need for more citizens and residents to come together to pull resources and skills together to defeat this growing problem. Tonight, Brother Robert will talk about some of the victories we have enjoyed, as well as talk about the actions we need to participate in. Brother Robert, I want to thank you for being with us tonight, and welcome to our story. What's new, my brother?
Wow, a whole lot. I just want to thank you for allowing me to be on this show tonight. It's been a long time, but it's always a pleasure. As I always say to listeners who may not know, when all the shootings went down and after Katrina, and nobody wanted to believe our story or give us a chance to talk about it. Brother WC, our story gave a lot of victims who had lost loved ones the opportunity to have a voice. So because of that, and many things he have supported me with through the years, I could never forget that. And I'm more than sure most families who had the opportunity to be here to give them that opportunity have never forgotten also. So last week, the families had came together, which we periodically always come together because we promised that we wasn't going to never allow the city to ever forget what happened to our loved ones. Some of us received some justice, some of us haven't, but nevertheless, we still willing to fight a day longer because maybe one day the truth may come forward. But we're going to continue to work with each other, lean on each other's shoulder, because one of the biggest things I believe that happened at that time, WC, was the families coming together. If nothing else, it was a healing process for families to be with other families who have experienced, that type of pain and agony that still exists today. But at least we, like maybe other families across this country that may not have, we have each other always to lean on. I share a story that once I took the family to Savannah, Georgia once, and we met a lady who lost a loved one to police, and oh man, she was just so overwhelmed to meet the families and to who can understand her agony and pain. In fact, that was the first time I saw Miss Grimes speak, and woo, she was powerful. But yeah, me and families and even new families like the SIPs is involved with this new group of what we call Families Overcoming Police Injustice, or victims of injustice. So yeah, we continue to work with each other, support each other, and we also have a bill we're trying to push. It's called the Victim Bill. I mean, my senior citizen moment. So
I understand. Take your time, brother. Take your time.
Yeah.
It's a bill for victims.
Yeah.
Is it of police brutality or just victims?
It's how the victims, is treated. It is how Victims Bill of Rights. That's what we call it. So yeah, we wanted to get in policy how when someone loses someone, how they are treated. Yes. And how we have to find out after it's on the news.
Yes.
How they expose the body and just how they treat families. Like they're the one that did the shooting.
Yeah.
When they done it.
Right.
So yeah, we wants to get some clearance on that, and so that's a bill that we, the families, is trying to push through to get, whether it's going to go through the city as an ordinance or it's going to be implemented in the police policy, I guess along with the consent decree too that's going on. But nevertheless, we pushing for that to happen. We also working towards, in October, there's a Police National Brutality Day. So we're going to try to do this more on a larger scale. Hopefully we may be able to invite other families from other places to come and unite with us on this day and have the community involved. So yeah, WC, those are the kind of things that's we are trying to do right now.
Let me just go back for a minute and talk about the bill, the legislation that's in Baton Rouge. It's
Okay.
up there. They're going to vote on it next Tuesday.
On what bill?
The Victims' Bill of Rights.
No, it's this is pretty much for this city. This has nothing to do with Baton Rouge right here.
Okay, well then there's a trip going to Baton Rouge. What is that about?
The trip that we're going to Baton Rouge is pertaining to the organization I work with now. It's called VOTE, Voice of the Experience. So we send information out to everyone that's incarcerated. It's sort of like a survey. And they send information back to us of their loved ones who's on a visiting list or phone calls, right? And most guys have, and females, have at least 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can, but normally it's usually one, if there's no more than 1 or 2 people that's they still really in touch with and concerned. So we know that trying for them to try to have a voice in the inside is very limited. You know, I can recall myself when I was incarcerated, the more I tried to bring about some changes, I was considered the troublemaker, right? And so I was put in solitary confinement, sometimes before the demonstration went on. But we know we could be more effective if we became the voice out here. And so this is why we tried to bring their loved ones into becoming their voice. And so last year, we brought together to the Capitol about 600 folks, families who have loved ones incarcerated or who's been impacted by the criminal justice system or just formerly incarcerated people. Because most of the people that's a part of this organization is formerly incarcerated people. So this year we're going back and we're trying to quadruple that number. And one of the major things I was proud of that we was able to achieve was the lifers bill, right? Most people that's doing a life sentence didn't have an eligible date for parole. So guys who went to prison with me at the age of 17, I'm 62 now, they was all pretty much still there. So since that bill has been passed, some has been released, some is about to be released, and now they do have an eligibility for parole. I've seen, knowing some juveniles that came there at 15 that died there. They never made it home, right? I have a good friend who just was released in February who did 55 years. And he was fortunate. I mean, his fall partner passed away before he could be released. So yeah, and so the juvenile bills, I mean, they wanted them to do 35 years, then we got it down to 25, which we think is still too harsh. So this year we're going back to protect what we won last year, as well as deal with other issues to get change in the criminal justice system. So, because New Orleans in Louisiana, we incarcerated more folks than any other parish in Louisiana, so we should be the majority. And rightfully so, there are a lot of people that's excited to come. We providing bus. We leaving at Corpus Christi Church at 2022 St. Bernard. I encourage everyone to be there for 6 a.m. because we pulling out at 6:30 so that we can be there on time. My number is area code 214-714-0674. Feel free to call me. I'm up to midnight every night. And my email address is Robert, R-O-B-E-R-T, low key, at vote-nola.org. And so, yeah, man, we have to, make noise about this, just like everything we have done historically. And just making it simple. If I slap you side the head, you don't tell me to stop. I just keep doing it. That's what they're doing us on our watch.
Yeah.
Right? We're allowing this to go down. And we the one that is mostly incarcerated across the country. And this ain't nothing new. This is historical.
Yes.
It's been going on since folks was brought to this country. And they're using the same method. And one of the things they use on us a lot to keep us from coming together is divide and conquer, to separate it, going back from the house brother and the field brother.
Yeah.
That still exists today.
Yeah, it does.
However, I still encourage folks, no matter what they throwing at us, we don't have the luxury to throw away no one soldier, no matter what our difference is. We got to keep our focus on the prize, because we can easily get sidetracked, and before you know it, the fight become among us.
Yeah.
We've been through a lot of this before.
Yeah.
But I'm preaching that now to have everyone accountable. You can't come tell me nothing about WC unless you need to come with me to talk to WC, right? And because if I entertain that with you, I'm just falling into the trap, divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Man.
So you're asking people to be there for 6 a.m. on Tuesday, is that right? At Corpus Christi Church?
March the 27th at 6 a.m. To be at the Corpus Christi Church, 2022 St. Bernard. I'm encouraging everyone, because it doesn't matter if you never had a loved one incarcerated or arrested. This impacts everybody on so many different levels. Because as we all know, the bulk of the budget comes through every city. The majority of it is going towards criminal justice. It leaves no room for corrections to deal with jobs, education, housing, medical care, you name it. There's no money basically left, because all of it is going towards that, deliberately. And folks, I always share with a lot of folks that I know you all may believe that the criminal justice system is broken. Well, I just want to let you all know that it's not. It's designed to be what it is.
It's working well.
Working well on our watch, because we're not saying nothing about it.
Yeah, and for those that, may not have a loved one that's incarcerated but wants to lend their support, we're encouraging you to come on out and go make the trip. I mean, it's a day away from the city. You'll get to see some things that are going on up in the Capitol. You'll be able to, I'm sure, meet some of the movers and shakers that are supporting or helping to support this. So we're saying, come on out and be a part of. You'll learn something, if nothing else. You'll walk away with an education, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I also maybe forgot to stress, we have a chapter of both in Sweetport, Lafayette, Baton Rouge, and the main chapter is here in New Orleans. So folks is coming together everywhere. I just want to see the folks from New Orleans. I hate to see 150 show out in Sweetport, and here we only have 50.
Yeah.
And we incarcerate the most here, right? That don't look too good. So I don't know what you're doing that day, or you may have to work, man, but we just asking one day out of this year to come make some noise and stand with us to let them know that we dissatisfied of what's going on and what's been going on for years, from generations after generations.
I'm going to double back on what we started discussing, and that was the victims of...
Bill of Rights.
And the Bill of Rights. We want to get on to that. Tell us more about that Bill of Rights. Tell us what that's about.
Okay, we the family had came together to talk about how a lot of us was treated during the time we lost our loved ones, and even the recently shootings that may have happened in the families that just came together, and we was very displeased with that. So we believe that we have a right to know before anybody else know, what's going on with our family. We should be informed. We shouldn't be treated like we the criminals, that like we committed the crime ourselves. And we're not going to tolerate that. And so we pushing that this bill get passed or approved so that we have the right to know what's going on with our loved one. I mean, when my brother was killed, I was driving 18-wheelers at the time, and I happened to get a call to let me know what happened. But the part I was saying is that, man, it took almost 2 years before I got a police report. And all of it was falsified. To this day, nobody had never questioned my family about what happened. Dwayne Sherman, who was acquitted in the Glover case, he was in charge the night my brother was killed. And he was able to be acquitted because the officer that threw the torch in the car on Henry Glover said that he was standing on top of the levee when he done that, and he had no knowledge that I was about to do that. So he got acquitted. And I told Jim Ledden, the prosecutor at that time, federal prosecutor, and I said, okay, we missed him at the picnic, we can probably catch him at the party. He was in charge the night my brother was killed. And I have a lot of video and pictures of things that happened, but they didn't do anything. They just swept it under the carpet like the other families. And it helped me to realize, even though at that time I thought that I would sacrifice my brother's case because it was a low-profile case to help push the cases of the high-profile cases of the Danziger, the Glovers, the Roberts, and those was pretty much the three cases that got prosecuted. And for the Madison, I mean, thankful that, we had Brother Romel Madison, and that, even though it was a tragedy, but he was involved with us, and he had the resource to go back and forward to D.C., and he was the president of the Dentists Association here in Louisiana, and he had connection with other groups across the country that put pressure on that administration in D.C. But when Bush administration went out, Obama came in, and this is when Eric Holden came down and forced Jim Ledden, because we went to Jim Ledden after the case was dismissed by Bigelow, because Bigelow had members that worked in his staff that was arrested for that shooting, and they all got acquitted. And they just thought we was going to give up, but we kept pushing, because our slogan, we willing to fight a day longer, and that way we know we already won. We just got to just keep fighting.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, that's what happened. So a lot of families didn't get the chance to face the accuser, and I believe because once these officers was convicted, then automatically all those cases should have been reopened because of the misconduct that high-rank officers was doing to cover up in those cases in the Danziger, Henry Glover, as well as the Robert case.
I've talked about this on many occasions, and I've kind of explained the relationships that we find in our courtrooms or in the criminal justice system. But we cannot forget that the defense attorney, the prosecuting attorney, the police, and the judge are the four major elements that you have in any criminal justice case. The problem with that is that all four of them are related. And they are related by profession. They are considered officers of the court. And I don't care, unless you have an attorney that throws caution to the wind and goes after the case, defends that case with every element they have at their disposal, it just gets swept under the rug, moved right along, and you do time, and who really cares?
Right.
Our problem is this. Most of our people don't want to get involved until a family member is going through the system. Then it's time to hoop and holler and reach out for anybody you can grab a hold of to give you some assistance.
Yes, sir.
And it's too late at that point. I've been preaching this for years, that You need to make a deposit in an investment before you need to cash out. Now, what does that mean? That means you need to be proactive in criminal justice reform before you need something, a favor, help, assistance, when your loved one is going through the trauma. Now, most black people still don't believe that innocent black people are arrested. They don't believe it. There is a thought, there is an atmosphere among jurors that sit on cases to determine their guilt or innocence, go in with the preconception that they wouldn't be on trial if they hadn't done something wrong. And that's most unfortunate from our community, because that's the general consensus of the white community.
Right.
So here we are punishing our community, and we don't have all of the facts. We don't even want to look and see if there is a question about guilt or innocence.
But WC, I think what happened as the years went by, I can recall when I was a young boy playing on the corner, and an elderly may see a police officer coming down the street, they would yell, "Y'all better watch out, here those people come," right? But as time went on, right, you know, and even though I was considered a street brother, was in the street doing things, I always still had respect for my elders. And I knew better not to, even no matter what they say to me, to talk back to them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that changed as time went on. And the young people today that's in that life, you know, they have no disregards for elderly folks or anyone, as far as that matter. So where before they would make wrong young people or who see the police coming to their neighborhood, they welcome it now, right? Out of fear, right? Doesn't make it right, but it's just understanding that process of where, when I was a young man and where we at now in our society. And we already know everything is set up to do what it does, okay? I mean, I must admit and be honest, you know, when I was coming up and I was so ignorant, I didn't know my ABCs. I didn't even know about slavery until I went to prison, right? And so I can imagine, well, how many more young men and women out there like that today, right? How lost we are, because, you know, that information is not going to be provided in our schools. Because we don't control our school. You know, if they're not learning at home the things they need to know, we wonder why our young people grow up, and by the time they become teenagers, they're so lost and confused in dealing with the major, like, identity crisis, trying to be everything other than who they are. Because most of us don't know who we are, or where we come from, or our history. Even those that become professionals.
Oh yeah, and they're lost the most.
Yeah, in fact, you're right. I mean, they become more dangerous to the culture than those that don't really know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's part of the process of what happened. And then when folks have the opportunity who serve a subpoena to become a jury, to be on that jury, most of us try to find ways to get out.
Yeah.
Right? And then we wonder why there's so many convictions, because we won't take the time, or we figure we're gonna lose money on the job and by coming to this, being on the jury. And these folks, you know, who deliberately is placed in those courtrooms to deliberately find us guilty, you know, and we could be innocent. We know how many folks, I know, because I live with a bunch of them, that was innocent came through that prison, but we didn't have no one to stand up for us, or the juries was predominant white.
Yeah.
Because most of the blacks, when they had the opportunity, they tried to get off.
You know, there's something that's very disturbing. I understand, and I have for a number of years. I keep hearing this over and over again. But they have a group of whites that are on juries here in Orleans Parish that put their names in to be recalled. And they're recalled because there's a need for jurors. But when we look at what they're doing, they're actually ridding the city of black folks who they consider being problems. And that's unfortunate that we have no one looking into that for us, nor do we have a reaction to come up with a way that we can remedy that.
So, you know, a lot of times, you know, and we encourage our community, and we don't have the luxury not to do it, but to go out and vote, right? And a lot of times, you know, we try to get people in there that look like us, even though we know a lot of times the same folks that look like us may work against us quicker than those that don't. But a week ago, you know, when the city, the people was in the city hall, it was so obvious, you know, that everyone pretty much voted for this new energy program or process, or building or whatever they
The building, yeah, they voted against it, yeah.
And, you know, the people, you know,
spoke against it. And they voted it anyway.
And so, you know, they supposed to work for the people and to listen what the people say. And that became so obvious of who they really working for.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because we see it and we continue to allow it to happen.
So WC, that's another thing we have to add to the agenda to work towards. We have to create that accountability. We have to know that when people coming into our community, they're asking for a vote. And not only that, we got to develop folks for that too, right?
Yeah, we do. We have to develop.
We have a lot of young people that's, you know, pretty much, you know, we turning out a lot of graduates out of college and things that we ever did before. But we have to get them involved and understand. I was just speaking to some students today and why it's so important that y'all get involved and volunteer, because, you know, I get more white Caucasian volunteers than I get blacks. You know, I was at Southern a few weeks ago, and Mark Morial was speaking, and he was talking about the history of New Orleans and the things that happened, and they had a lot of young people that was there, and some schools from right here in the city, Catholic schools was there, and what I saw was a lot of these young people was playing with their texts, or if they wasn't playing with their texts, they was sleeping. And I said, "Ooh, Lord, boy, we in trouble."
Yeah.
You know, but that's part of that process of the intoxication that been passed down from generations to generations. And again, you know, we strive and tell our kids we want them to be better than us, to do better than us. And a lot of times you forgot to tell them, you know, but while you're doing that, you got to come back and reach one and teach one.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And even before you go there, you need to understand who you are and how this system impact you, because you probably gonna maybe be working as a professional, as a DA, a doctor, judge, or whatever in this profession, but you must know where you come from and how this system impacts us as a whole, because before you know it, you'll be working with them. And if you don't understand that, you'll be going along again with the protocol of, you know, how things should be done. that work against us.
You know, it's interesting because we have a large number of black scholars that disseminate information that is healthy for us to know, because it tells us how and why we're in the situations we're in.
Right.
But we have people in places that could allow these voices to be raised and echoed and traveled, but they refuse to do it. They will jump on the concepts that have been proven by the oppressor, and they jam that down our throats. You mentioned about voting, and this is a pet peeve of mine. We keep hearing that black folks aren't voting, but when we look at the actual statistics, black folks are voting. But who are they voting for? One of the things, and I'm going to use this Saturday as election day. I'm going to use one of the candidates or the offices as an example. I have nothing against either one of these opponents or candidates. I'm not pushing one over the other. My problem is, if you're trying to get a position in an appeals court, I cannot understand how anyone can walk off of the street into an appeals court position and render the law the way the law is supposed to be adjudicated. I can understand coming from the bench, whether you're in criminal court, civil court, municipal court, or traffic court. Preferably, you should move up one level at a time. But even if we just can that, going into a position on the appeals court without trying cases, without sitting on the bench, without being an administrative judge, I don't see how you can go and become an appeals court judge. There's something, from my standpoint, radically wrong with the way that they have qualifications. That's all in the qualifications. Because it's not stated there, anyone can run that has a law degree, can run. But the qualifications need to be refined so that it has to have been a sitting judge, whether it's the appeals court or the Supreme Court. Can you imagine someone being seated on the Supreme Court who has not tried a case, has not sat in judgment on a case? So how do we say it's justice? And that is the problem that I have.
So again, that's another one on our agenda.
Yes, yeah, I'm afraid so.
Yeah, WC, there's so many things that we have to continue to fight and deal with. But again, we don't have the luxury to not fight or to continue to push. One thing I noticed, because I was out of the loop for about 3 years when they when I was hired with Ceasefire, I wasn't allowed to say anything about the city or the mayor. And when I look back, I think all that was deliberately to gang me, right? But I just thought it was an opportunity to work with young brothers, and I have no regret of working with those young brothers, because even though the city was providing the resource, I always knew from the beginning they wasn't doing that because they was concerned of us, our kids shooting one another, the mayor that's showing up all the time in our neighborhood when someone got shot, picking up our kids and hugging them like they concerned. Because, I mean, to this day, that's still a major issue. So if that's such a big crisis, I mean, why would you just push for, well, first they had one in Mid-City, and then when I came on, they created the hospital crisis team. But it's happening all over the city. Now, I'm not saying it was even a solution for that problem. But I knew at the time in the Mid-City where most of the shooting was happening, and because they did get involved in going into those communities, and at that time you had the police, I mean, the people policing themselves. You know, like I might walk up to one of my neighbors and say, I'm mad with so and so and so, you know, and one of them might say to me, you know, like, come on, Rob, that ain't worth that, man. You know, chill out, you know, that kind of thing. So they had a lot of that going on in the Mid-City at that time because that's where they started. But what about Algiers and the Ninth Wall, Uptown, Downtown, right? You didn't have none of that. And then the other part of it is, after we got with these young people to try to change their mindset, they still had to feed themselves.
I just thought of something. We have the fastest hour in television.
Okay.
And I just thought of something that I need to do because I had promised to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's Jasmine Groves.
Right. We can't forget that.
Jasmine Groves is the daughter of Kim Groves. And how old was she when Kim was killed? 13? Or was she
maybe younger than that.
Younger than that.
Yeah.
Well, Jasmine is continuing the legacy, the fight, the advocacy and activism of her mother. Now, I understand there is some problems that she's facing dealing with the house. She needs some help. She's having a supper tomorrow, I believe.
Yes.
And we want to let you know how to get in touch, what it's going to be, so that you can at least reach out and have some kind of assistance there for her.
And see, for the sake of the audience, could you kind of remind them who Kim Grove was?
Yeah, Kim Grove was a woman that was killed because she complained about an NOPD officer, Lynn Davis at the time. Lynn had her executed, killed. And I also have to say that the federal government listened in on this call and allowed Kim to be killed as well. So they have liability in her death as well. But anyways, it's going to be at her place. It's Jasmine Groves. Her number is 504-255-2555. Again, 504-255-2555. They've got plates, fish, fried or baked, chicken, fried or baked, stuffed peppers, sweet vegetables, green beans, sweet peas, yam, whole corn, jambalaya, seafood pasta, mac and cheese, red beans, white beans. Again, it's 504-255-2555. She's going to be doing this from about 9 a.m. until the food runs out. So please, show your support. Go out there and support the sister so they can save the homestead. Robert, we have the fastest hour in television, and again, it's time. We got less than a minute. Before I say goodbye to you, though, Robert, I wanted to send out a health get well greetings to my brother Hezekiah, who watches me religiously, and I want to thank him for his support and participation, and I want you to get well and let me know how things are coming. Robert, we got to get out of here. You have to come back, and you can't make it as long as you've made it. So we got to get you back here real soon.
Oh, well, I'll definitely be back. Now that I'm not working as the organizer, statewide organizer, I'm pretty much back here locally. So I'll be here on the show. Going to bring others with me.
Good.
So get used to me.
Don't forget, Tuesday, 6 a.m., Corpus Christi Church to go to Baton Rouge. Thank you, brothers and sisters. We got to go. Stay strong, stay black, but most importantly, stay committed to blackness. Yehoro Sasa Ungawa.
Come on, yeah, lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, listen, lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on. Sing a song, yeah, full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Come on. Sing a song, full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun, facing the rising sun. Of our new day begun. It's a new day. Let us march on till victory is won. Till victory is won. This is victory music. Come on, I hope you feel it. Bye.